This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, it is. Okay. All right, guys. So when you open up the technology assignment, and remember what you guys do is you just click here. I'm just doing this for the video, so that way when you want to go back and watch it, just click here on the documents, etc. Go down to the technology assignment, and then you guys are going to open up both of these files. Okay, one of them is the document that shows you guys all of the instructions, etc. Okay, you should not be typing this data in. Okay, so this data is going to be in the Excel file. Okay, all right, and then here's all the instructions that I'm going to ask you guys to do. We're going to go through all these things with a different set of data, so that way you guys can see it for yourselves. All right, when you submit the technology assignment, you're going to submit two things. Okay, I keep losing my pen. Sorry. So two things you're going to submit for the technology. Okay, one of them is going to be an Excel file with all of your charts and your graphs and all that stuff. Okay, so excuse me, you're going to do an Excel file. Okay, with your charts, graphs, and all that stuff. The second thing that you're going to submit is you're going to submit a Word file that has the interpretations, okay, or the analysis. Okay, so Word doc with your analysis. Okay. All right. You shouldn't be typing in your answers into Excel. Excel doesn't have like a spell check in it. It doesn't check for grammar and that stuff. So so just do all your typing of your analysis in a Word file. All right, guys. So I'm going to bring up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to do all this stuff, the frequency distribution, mean, median, mode, all that good stuff. So this is the stuff I'm going to show you today. And then with the data I'm going to go through with you all, okay, I'm going to kind of give you guys an analysis of some of the data. Okay, so let me pull into the other screen. Okay. And there we go. Let me blow this up a little bit so you guys can all see it. Okay, this is not the actual data, okay, that you guys are going to use. Okay, this is just some fictitious data that I made up, so that way I can show you guys how to do things. You guys are going to use the data that I gave you or that I provided on Blackboard. All right, so some of the things I'm going to ask you guys to do. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to find mean, median, mode, 5-number summary, standard deviation of some data. Okay, I'm also going to ask you guys to be able to do some box plots, histograms, bar charts, that sort of stuff. I'm going to show you all that stuff. Okay, so let's start with the quantitative data. Let's say I want to find the mean and the median and the mode of a list of data in Excel. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and I'm just going to move this over. For you, those of you guys that have never used Excel, realistically, all you have to do is just type in a cell, okay? And it doesn't do spell checks, so be careful with that, okay? And if you want a function in Excel to occur, you're going to type an equal sign, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type equal average, and then a parenthesis, and then I'm just going to highlight all the data, okay? So I'm just going to hold my mouse button in, I'm going to click it, all right? And then I'm going to close the parenthesis, and I'm going to hit enter, okay? And what it does is it finds the average of that data, okay? So pretty simplistic. Let me do it again for you guys. If you want to get more decimal places, you just drag the cell at the top here where the line is, okay? So you just have to hover over to it, and that'll get you more, you know, a little bit more precision if you want, okay? So again, what you're going to do is you're just going to type equal average parenthesis, not asterisk parenthesis, right? And then you're going to highlight the data, all right? And you don't even have to close the parenthesis. Excel will just do it for you, okay? If you want the median, you're going to type equal median. And close the parenthesis or open parenthesis, highlight the data, parenthesis, and then enter. And surprise, if you want the mode, you're going to type equal mode, highlight the data, and then enter, okay? All right. Really easy, right, guys? Okay, it's a lot better than sitting there and crossing things off like we did for the median on the test, okay, or in class, etc. All right, so we can use Excel to kind of manage these large sets of data. All right, but we certainly want to know where it's coming from. All right, now 5-number summary, pretty easy. Okay, we have a low, we have a Q1, we have a Q2, which is really our median, so we can just type that in right away. We have Q3, not W3, Q3, and we have a high. All right, so the low and the high are pretty easy. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to type equal min, parenthesis, and then highlight the data. To get the high, you're going to type equal max, parenthesis, highlight the data. Q2, we already know, that's the median. Okay, or I could just type in equal median, just like we did before. Now, for Q1 and Q3, you're going to use a function called percentile. All right. And really, Q1 is the 25th percentile, Q3 is the 75th percentile. So to be able to find Q1, you're going to type the function equal percentile. You're going to open up a parenthesis. You're going to highlight the data. Then you're going to type comma 0.25. Okay. And then you're just going to hit enter after that. Okay. And that gives you Q1. To get Q3, you're going to use the exact same function. So equal percentile. You're going to highlight the data. So parenthesis, highlight the data. And then instead of comma 0.25, you're going to type comma 0.75. That's it. Okay. Before we would have had to sort the data, right, guys? Now we don't have to sort the data. We just go through and do it. Okay. All right. Any questions about that stuff, guys? And as you guys have questions, just either throw them in the chat or raise your electronic hand or whatever it might be. Okay. All right, guys. Last thing we need to do to be able to summarize the data is to find the standard deviation. All right. And you guys know how much of a pain standard deviation is, okay? Now you guys aren't going to like me because what you're going to do is you're going to type equal STDEV, not FEV, STDEV, sorry, right? And then you're going to highlight the data. And it finds the standard deviation for you. Okay, pretty cool, right? Now you guys are pretty upset that I made you do it on the exam and on a quiz and for homework. Now it's
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that the standard deviation for the sample?
It is. It's the sample standard deviation, right? Okay. All right, guys. Any other questions so far? Everybody good? Okay. All right, guys. And then you're going to do it for the other set as well. Okay. So, so over here, this would be for, and the data that I'm using is the number of malfunctions in a machine at plant A. So what you guys are going to do on your assignment is you're just going to take all this stuff. All right, you're going to copy and paste it, and you're going to do the exact same thing over here. Okay, so you're going to type, I'll just do it really quickly, equal average, parenthesis, highlight the data. All right, equal median, highlight the data, equal mode, highlight the data. All right, and then equal min, highlight the data. I think in the tech assignment, you guys have 3 of them. Okay, so you might have to do this 3 times because I think there's 3 different data sets that you're going to have to worry about. Okay, equal, remember percentile. And highlight the data, and then comma 0.25. All right, we already know the median is 3 anyway, so I'm just going to type it in. And then equal percentile again. And highlight the data, blah, 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 comma 0.75. All right, and then finally the high. I mean, we could look at the list and see it's 20, but if it's a really big list, we don't want to just do inspection. This one's not too bad. Okay, and then standard deviation equal STDEV, and we're going to highlight the data. All right. So that's literally all of the commands that you guys are going to need. Okay, now I'm still going to show you guys like the box plot as well as the histogram for this. Okay, but But this is what you guys are going to do. Now, when I ask you guys for the analysis, okay, the analysis is going to ask you guys to use these numbers to come up with some sort of, just some sort of analysis with these. So for instance, guys, when we ask with respect to consistency, okay, one thing to remember is that your standard deviation is a measure of consistency. And the higher your standard deviation is, the less consistent your data is. Okay, it doesn't mean it's not reliable. It just means it's harder to predict what's going to happen. Okay, so just remember, smaller standard deviation implies more consistency. And in the business world, consistency is good, right? Because we know what's going to happen. We can kind of predict things. So for instance, the number of malfunctions for plant B, because the standard deviation is higher, is going to be less predictable, okay? And you can tell because there's some zeros in here. So there's some days where they don't have any malfunctions, but then there's some days where they have a large number of malfunctions. Now over here, I mean, they do have a day with 20 in there, and they do have a 0, but most of the data in here is between 0 and 10. Okay, there's a few that are kind of above 10. All right, but the large majority of them are, you have less. I guess you have less of a spread in there. All right. However, on average, there's more malfunctions at plant A, and that's sort of the things that I'm asking you guys to do, is to look at the averages. Clearly, the median is higher, right? And then, although the mode really doesn't count. We don't care much about the mode anyway. All right. So if I'm looking at this on average, and also according to the median, we expect there to be more malfunctions at plant A, but at least we can kind of say, all right, it's not as going to be spread out. Okay. So that's the sort of stuff I'm looking for. Does that make sense to everybody, guys? Any questions? Okay. A few more things that I want to ask you guys to do is I'm going to ask you guys to put up some graphs for this. Okay, so if we're looking at the technology assignment, I'm going to bring it over really quickly. Okay, so far, oh, and I got to get the frequency distribution for you guys. Okay, so we did the mean, median, mode. Okay, we did the 5-number summary. Okay, and I'm going to show you guys the frequency distribution really quickly. Okay, so you're going to use Sturge's rule. Okay, so remember with Sturge's rule, it's first of all, you need the number of classes. All right, so you're going to say equal 1 plus 3.3 log of n. All right, and that means we have to figure out what n is for this, right? So let me delete all this stuff because we don't need it anymore. Okay. To figure out what the number of observations is, you're going to use this function. It says equal count A. Okay, so equal count A, and then you just highlight the data, right? And what that'll do is it'll show you how many observations there are in a list. Okay, so this one's 27, right? So this would be N. And then to find C, and then you're going to find your width. Okay, so C is going to be equal to 1 plus 3.3 times log of 27, not called log. And so about 5.72, not that it matters, all right, but it does. And then finally, the width, we already know what the highest and the lowest observation is. Okay, so that's going to be equal to, remember we said the highest was 20, the lowest was 0. And we're going to have divide that by 5.724. Okay, so roughly the width is going to be about 3 if we round it. All right, it could be 4. I guess if you rounded to 3.5 and then rounded it up, all right. But technically, the 3.49 would round down to 3. Okay, so the width is going to be 3. So here's what you're going to do. Okay, you're just going to type. Oh, go ahead, Helen.
Can you redo the width again?
Yeah, sure. It's just the same as you would do in the calculator. So it'd be equal to 20 minus 0, close parenthesis, and then we're going to divide it by 5.723. Okay. And I'll get 3.494. Okay. So all good?
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. All right. So from here, guys, this is where you get, and remember, this is Sturge's rule. Okay, so our width is really 3. So we're going to have like classes 0 to 2. Okay, and then we'll have 3 to 5. By the way, if it does show up a date, what you're so if I type in 3-5, it comes up as March. So if for some reason, okay, your computer does that or Excel does it, just highlight these columns, do a right click on there, go to Format Cells, okay, and just type, just go ahead and make it a text, okay, just for this one, okay. So I'll do that again, but if you just highlight its text and click OK, then you can type it and it goes 0 to, or I'm sorry, 3 to 5. It's not going to do the date anymore. Okay. So what you would do is you would just highlight all these cells. You would do a right click. Okay. Not a left click, but a right click. Okay. On your mouse, and then go down to Format Cells, and then Text. Okay. And again, that's only if it comes up for some reason as like a date or something like that. Okay. Excel tries to predict what's going to happen. It does a good job most times, but not all the time. Okay, so 6 to 8, and then 9 to 11, and then 12 to 14, and then 15 to 17, 18 to 20. All right, there we go. Hi, guys. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead, put the data in order. Okay, so let me show you guys how to do that. So to put the data in order, all right, what you guys can do is you can just copy and paste this into a straight line. Okay, anywhere on the sheet, doesn't matter. And if you want to go ahead and put the data in order, just highlight all of it. So just drag your mouse, highlight all of it. Okay. Then what you guys are going to do is go up to Data, and then you're going to go to Sort, and you can just go ahead and click on this A to Z if you want. And what that'll do is it'll put it in order for you. Okay, so I'll do it again so that way you guys can see it. Okay, so you're just going to put all the data in a single line. Okay, going up to down. You're going to highlight all of it. Excuse me. And then you're just going to click on Data up top here, the Data tab, and then you're going to click from A to Z. Excuse me, and that'll put your data in order. All right, and so what we can do is once the data is in order, go ahead.
Sorry, how do we put the data in a line, in a straight?
So if you want to, like, let's say for this data, what you could do is you could just cut it. Okay, so go up to here. I use Control X, and that's like a shortcut for cut, but you could just cut and paste it. So so if you go up here, you could just highlight it. You can go cut, and then you can go down here, and then you could just go ahead and paste it. Okay, so copy his picture. If you use just paste it. Okay, and then
Okay, thanks.
Sure, no problem. And then do that, and because we're going to have to do it anyway, so we're going to cut it, and then we're going to go down here and paste it. Okay. Right. Now be careful because sometimes it'll change things. Okay, so be aware that on occasion, if you move cells, Excel might mess with some of your values over here. So notice it changed C and N. Okay, so what if I go back? Okay, it'll go back to the way it was. All right. So anyway, given all that, what you could do is you could just say equal count A. All right. And then what you're going to do is once the data is in order, you just highlight all the observations that are between 0 and 2. Oh, I spelled it wrong. There we go. Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing. So equal count A. And then you're going to highlight all the data between 3 and 5, including 3 and 5. Okay. Etc. So equal count A. And 6 to 8. And then equal count A. And then 9 to 11. And then equal count A. 14. So it's only 1 or 2, I'm sorry. So 12 to 14. 2 more. Count A. Sorry, I know this is taxing watching this stuff. All right. Probably a lot more fun to do it. Actually, it would not be fun at all. Okay, and 18 and 20. Okay, guys. So there we go. Now we have our frequency distribution. Okay. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and make relative frequency and cumulative frequency as well, right? So for instance, we could just say equals over here, and then what we could do is we could say 5/27. Okay. And then what it'll do is it'll spit out the percentage of the relative frequency. All right. Another way to do this is you can reference the cell. So notice that this is cell B17 right here. So that 5, or I can just click on the cell and then divide that by 27. Okay. And you get the same thing. So I could say equal B18 divided by 27. Right. Oh, I didn't divide it. I think I missed the division sign the first time. All right. Another thing that Excel's pretty smart at usually is if you have a pattern, it'll continue the pattern. You just take the little block box that's in the bottom right and you just drag it, and it'll actually fill in all of the other ones. Okay. So notice you can see it up here. This is B19, and then B20/27, B21. So realistically, what I could have done, but I just wanted to show you this a few times, guys, is I could have just gone up here, all right, and then dragged the box once I did the first one. Oops, that one didn't do it because I typed in 5/27. So if I did B16/27, and then I dragged the box, it would continue that pattern. Okay, so notice this is B17, B18, B19 at the top here, etc. And of course, remember, if you want to check to see if it's right, you just do an equal sum, and you just add these up. Okay, the sum should be 1. Okay, so that's how you guys can do the relative frequency. All right, and then cumulative frequency, you just add these up. Okay, so you could just say equal C1, and then equal. Oh, I'm sorry. This should be C16. So you could say equal C16. And this would be equal to, you could just take D16, which was the previous cell, plus C17, which is the next one. Okay. And then we could say equal D17 plus C18. Okay. So basically what I'm doing is I'm adding this cell and this cell, right? And that's basically what we did in class, right? Now, I don't know if Excel is going to be smart enough to recognize this, but I'm going to try to drag it, and it is. Okay, so there we go. We have the whole frequency distribution that we did for the entire class. Okay, so pretty cool that we can do that using Excel. All right. Any questions so far? I'm going to check the chat really quickly just to make sure. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Okay. All right, guys. You are going to have to create a histogram. Okay, but it's actually pretty easy. Okay. Once you have the frequency distribution, here's how you're going to get your histogram. You're just going to highlight the classes as well as the frequencies for the classes. You're going to go up to where it says insert, and then you're going to go over here, okay, where it has like the bar column, okay? And what you guys are going to do is you're just going to click right here, all right? And I know it's not a histogram because the bars are apart, but you're just going to click on that. Let me do it again so that way everybody can see it twice. Okay, so you're just going to highlight the classes and the date and the frequency. You're going to go up to insert, and then you're going to go over here to the bar charts. Okay, it's the very first one where it says recommended charts. All right, and then right here you're just going to click on the first one of these. Okay, if you click on this one, it gets a little bit wider. Okay, if you click on this one, it doesn't do anything for you. All right, so but this is probably the best one we can use. Okay. Now, a number of things that are wrong with this graph so far. The bars are pushed apart, right? We don't want that. And also, it doesn't have labels in there. So let me take care of the labels in the title really quickly. Then I'll take care of the bars for you guys. All right. There's this little plus sign. Click on that. And right here where it says Axis Titles, just click on that box. Okay. If you really want to put the labels in there, you can, but we don't have to do that. Okay. And so over here, you're just going to change it. Okay, so this is going to become our frequency. Okay. And this is malfunctions per day. All right. And then up here, we'll just say that this is the malfunctions per day for plant A. Okay. Plant A. There we go. Right. So pretty easy, right, guys? Again, all you do is you just click on the chart somewhere and click on this plus sign. Okay. And again, what that'll do is that'll bring up the legend for you guys to be able to change these things. Okay. Data table just puts at the very bottom, but you don't want to do any of that stuff. Okay. Just showing you guys what these do. The error bars don't do anything either. Okay. All right. Now, the last thing we have to do is we have to smush this together, right? We have to get all the bars together. So what you're going to do is on any bar, it doesn't matter which one, you're going to right click. Okay. And all you're going to do is go over here where it says gap width. Okay. So right over here. And you're just going to make that 0. So you're just going to shade all the way down. And there you go. Now you have a histogram. Okay. Pretty cool. I'll do it again so that way you guys can see it. All right. So again, what you're going to do is any bar, doesn't matter. I'll just pick on the first one. You're going to right click. Okay. Then you're going to go to format. You're going to right click on it. All right. And then you're going to go to where it says, oh boy, it didn't come up. Boy, I right clicked the first time and it came up. Well, anyway, for some reason it wants to, so format data point. Okay. If it doesn't come up right away, go down to where it says format data point. Usually it just comes right up, but I think it's because I closed it. That's what happened. Okay. So right click. If it doesn't come up on the right-hand side, just go to format data series. Okay. And then make the gap width 0. Okay. There you go. That's your histogram. And you're going to do the same thing a few times for each of these. Okay. All right, guys. Any questions about frequency distribution or any questions about histogram? Okay. Now, one last thing that you guys are going to do with this data, okay, and then we're going to move on to categorical data, is you guys are going to make side-by-side box plots. Okay. So here's how to do that. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. So like when we had the original data, and just show you guys how to make the side-by-side box plots. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. All right, remember when we put all the data in a line and we sorted it, right? We did that. You're gonna have to do that. You're not gonna have to sort it. So I'm just gonna put all the data in a line, or in a column, I guess. And I'm just gonna take the title, okay, and I'm gonna copy that as well right here, okay? And by the way, you might have to do this in another tab, all right, because you had so much other stuff going on. Okay, so if you want to, you could just go ahead and start a new tab, and you could just copy and paste all the data into another sheet if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to do the same thing over here, and I'm just going to put them right next to each other. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and move it, and take this and move it, and then I'm going to take this and move it. All right. I'm going to highlight all the data for both of them at the same time. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to insert, and there's a histogram over here. Beware, guys, the histogram does not use Sturge's rule. Okay, so you don't want to use this histogram. You want to make up your own like we did before. Okay, so I know it does a histogram, but it's not the right one. Notice that there's a box and whisker plot. Okay, you're going to click on that, and notice it gives you a really nice side-by-side box plots for these. Okay, you're going to change the title. You're going to put in some axes titles as well. All right, so check this out, guys. If you click on the plus, click on axis titles. All right. Also, click on where it says legend. All right, so that's pretty cool. All right, because now we know which one's which. You can resize this if you want. Okay, this is really nice, by the way, if you guys are doing stuff for your business classes or for any of your classes, right? You can actually take this image, you can cut and paste it into a Word file. All right, I actually do this for a lot of stuff that I do for my program review and all that stuff when I have to report things for my boss. Okay, we're going to delete these. Okay, so this one right here, I'm just going to highlight it. and I'm going to delete it. Okay, I don't want that. So just hit delete. And this guy too, I can delete this. Oh, I want to delete the whole thing. So this axis right here, I'm just going to click on it and delete it because I don't need it for anything. But over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this to number of malfunctions. Okay, if I can spell it right. Sorry. Oh boy. I never took typing in high school. I took music instead. So a lot of good that did me, right? Typing would have been a lot better. All right. So there you go, guys. Change the title. So this is going to be box plots of number of malfunctions at 2 plants. I should say TWO, I guess. All right. And by the way, guys, when you're doing your capstone projects, this will be really helpful too if you're comparing two groups. Right? Guys, clearly from the box plots, can't we see that the data is a little more compact or a little bit more dense for the malfunctions for plant A and the malfunctions for plant B? We can see that box is a lot wider. I was trying to see my hands. So this one's more spread out, and we already knew that, right? Because when we looked at the standard deviation was higher for plant B. Okay, so remember, a box plot's just another way to kind of describe dispersion. All right, so any questions from anybody about before we move on to categorical data? Okay, and I'm just going to bring up the assignment again just to make sure we went through everything. All right, so things that we did. Okay, so we created a frequency distribution, done. Found mean, median, mode, done. 5-number summary and standard deviation, done. We did a histogram. All right, histogram is one of the easiest things, and so is the box plot. Okay. Any questions from anybody? Okay. Now, there is going to be an exercise where you guys have to look at categorical data as well. Okay, so we were able to summarize quantitative data, and we're going to do a lot of the same stuff. Okay, so this has, in your assignment, you're going to have three different sets of data that you're going to have to look at and analyze. Right. So over here, things I'm going to ask you guys to do: get a frequency distribution, bar chart, pie chart. Okay, so it's actually pretty easy to do this. All right, so let me show you how to do this. So what you guys are going to do is, and I do have some data over here. This is my mock data. Let me make it a little bit bigger so that way everybody can see it. If you're on a small screen, I'm going to drag this out a little bit.
Are all the data going to be in the Excel file?
You got it. That's exactly
Okay.
right, Ellen. So when you guys open the data, in fact, let me show you guys really quickly, so that way I'm not lying to you, just so that way you know where to get it. There we go. Okay, so here's all the data. All right, and we don't need these. You could just delete these bins. All right, they can just go away. It would be helpful if I went for enable editing. All right, I'll probably just repost this without the bins in there. Right, but here's all the distributors. They're actually in a line for you already. You might have to sort them, okay, but they're already in there, the line for you. All right, and then here's all the stuff for the data for the categorical stuff. So it's just down here in 2 tabs. Okay, so good question. Thanks, Ellen. Okay, all right. So let me close that. I'm gonna not save it. Okay. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to have our frequency distribution. So we have math, and then we have biology. You're just going to type in the categories: chemistry and engineering and computer science. All right. Remember, we had that function count A. Okay, so we're just going to say equal count A, and we're going to highlight all the math. Okay, so there we go. We have 6. Then we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to highlight all the biology. All right, so, and then we just hit enter. Right, equal count A. All right, and we're going to do for chemistry. Right. you guys, I mean, literally, we could do this by hand if we wanted to. We could sit here and count it if we wanted to, but I think it's a lot faster if we just use this count a function for most of them. Okay, for math, it wouldn't be too hard. Okay, but it does prevent us from making a non-sampling error, right, by counting them incorrectly. Okay, there we go. That's our frequency distribution. Okay, if we wanted to include relative and cumulative frequencies, okay, what I could do is, and by the way, we could just say equals sum to be able to figure out the total. Okay, so there's 65 observations. So if I wanted to get relative frequency, I could say equal I3, which is the cell that the 6 lies in, and we would divide that by our 65. And Excel should be smart enough to where if we drag it, we get all of the relative frequencies. Okay, I don't know why that's not 18 font. There we go. Okay, and then for cumulative frequency, right, the first one's going to be the same. So we can say that's equal to J3, or I'm sorry, I3. Oh, J3. That was right the first time. Okay. But for the other ones, we could say equals K3 plus J4. Right? And Excel should be smart enough that if I drag it, okay, I get the cumulative frequency for each of those. Okay, so Excel is pretty smart. Okay, it just knows all the goodies. All right. So guys, any questions about frequency distribution for categorical data? All right, you can title it, like that's our relative frequency. These are our classes, our categories. And then this is our frequency. This is our relative frequency, and this is our cumulative frequency. Just in the interest of time, I'm abbreviating. Okay. All right, guys, we need a bar chart. So to get I'm sorry, yeah, we do need a bar chart out of this. So what I'm going to do is just highlight this data right here. I'm going to go up to insert, and remember how we did the histogram? We just go right here. There we go. Okay, that's all we have to do with that. Okay, so let me do it again. Okay, so we're just going to highlight the data, the categories. We're going to go to insert, and we're just going to click right here, and there we go. All right. If you want to add the titles and all that stuff, you just click on plus. All right, go to axis title, and in fact, you have to. Okay, so this is our science majors, and this is our frequency. All right, and then we're going to change the title, and we're just going to say majors in science. All right, so maybe this is like at a small university or something like that. I don't know. Right, you can change the size of it just like you guys did the other ones. Okay, so if you want to make it a lot bigger, that's fine too. Okay, all right, guys, we need a pie chart. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to highlight the data just like we did for the bar chart. We're going to go to insert, and here's a pie chart right here. Okay, and we can get the 3D pie if we want to be really fancy. Ooh, fun. All right, doesn't matter. I don't care which one you use. Okay, they're both the same. All right, we're going to make sure that we have some labels in there. All right, so we're just going to go to plus, and we're going to put some data labels in there. So that way when somebody looks at it, they know what they're actually looking at. Okay, we're going to change the title. Okay, so this is our majors in science. There we go. All right, the categorical data is really easy to work with in Excel. All right, so there we go. Like I said, guys, this is really cool if you want to incorporate this into your other projects. Like I could see certainly if you're taking like macroeconomics or microeconomics, it would be really helpful there. Your biology classes, absolutely helpful there because you guys do a lot of graphic and charts, chemistry, those sorts of things. So, so yeah, use these guys in your other classes. I mean, that's why you're paying the money to take this class so you can use it in real life. And this is probably what you would do in real life. But in our class, we need to know like how Excel works. Okay, so the cool thing is now, guys, you know how to do a lot of stuff by hand. You know how to use your calculator, but also now you know how to use Excel. Okay, so 3 different ways that I'm trying to show you guys how to do all the stuff we do in class. All right, questions before we go. We get done with this Excel business. Everybody good?
Not about the Excel, but about the quiz that's due this Sunday or this coming Monday.
Oh, gotcha. By the way, Helen, the quiz is not due until next Monday. Okay, so it's not due until I think we said the 14th or the 7th. Okay.
Okay,
because we
great.
haven't gone through permutations and combinations yet, which we're going to
Okay, cool.
Okay. I guess other questions. I guess that probably means you don't have a question, right? Because you're probably like your question was, how do you do that stuff at the end, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Other questions I can answer for anybody about anything. Okay. The other thing I wanted to discuss today was the Capstone Project. Okay. So let me close this out. I'm not going to save it. All right. So a little bit about the Capstone Project. If you guys haven't looked at it, which I don't expect anyone did, okay, you guys can kind of look and see what the Capstone Project's about just by clicking on the Capstone Project link in Blackboard, okay? And a few things are going to come up. Anytime that you have to submit something, okay, you're just going to go into the Capstone Project stuff. And I just realized I have the same dates from last semester, so I'm going to delete all these, all right? The instructions as to how to submit are the same, all right? But what I do with the Capstone Project is I kind of graduate you guys with this, okay? So, so the first thing you guys are going to do is you're going to submit, first of all, a project proposal. Then you're going to come up with your sources, okay? So you guys do have to have sources for this, okay? A minimum of 3. You'll probably end up using more. Wikipedia is not a source that you guys can use, okay? So, but it has to be something scholarly, okay? I'll either approve or ask you to change your sources once you guys submit them, okay? If it's not something that I'd consider scholarly, right? And then I do have a couple updates for you guys as well throughout the semester, just to let me know how things are going. I do believe we have a few days where we also meet, okay? We have like individual group meetings for everybody, so that way we can kind of talk about how things are going with your project and if you guys have questions, okay? All right, so all that aside, all right, I'm just going to open up the Capstone Project and just show you guys what it's all about, all right? We've been together for a month. We might as well start doing this, right? Okay. And the Capstone Project is worth a pretty significant component of your grade. Okay. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that, you shouldn't wait till the last minute to do this. Okay. So, as you're working along, make sure that you guys do put significant effort into this. Not saying you wouldn't, but okay. So guys, the Capstone Project is essentially going to be a research project. Really what I'd like for you guys to do is one of two things. You could either replicate a study and collect your own data, or, and by the way, we've done that before. So for instance, an example of that is last semester, I had students that collaborated with the food pantry at Harvard, and they had a study that was done in 2016. And obviously there's a pandemic, okay? So people use the food pantry differently in 2022. So those students recreated that survey and they collected data and they just determined whether or not what categories changed from that survey, all right? So that's something that you guys could do is you could find a study that was done and you could collect your own data to see whether or not the result still is valid or if it's changed with respect to your population. Another approach is that you could start your completely own study of something. And I'll give you an example of that. Last semester, I had 2 students that partnered with the Harvard Artists Association, and they have a volunteer base. So what these students did was they looked at, they got a database of all those people. They figured out where they lived. They created their own survey and they collected data. So they got where these people live. They got their age. They got how often they volunteer at the Harvard Artists Association, and they came to find out that their volunteer base was mostly comprised of retirees, and that's not good because a lot of times retirees they're really good. There's really good aspects and then there's not so good aspects because a lot of times retirees are very dedicated, but also, and I hate to say this, but they die eventually. So you need new people, okay? And also you probably want some younger people to attract more people to come to the Harvard Artists Association. And so they did research on this. They looked at best practices in recruiting volunteers, and they produced a study for the Harvard Artists Association. These 2 students, by the way, one of them's an art major. And the other one, I think it's like, I can't remember. I think she's an anthropology major. So this was an example, and quite honestly, in art, you never use math. But in fact, this was the case where they could use math. So anyway, The study was done and it was their own study. So that's what I'm kind of looking for you guys, okay? You can either recreate a study or you can create your own, okay? Ideally, it would be something to help the community in some facet, okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean it can't be informative, okay? So for instance, I've had students that are really interested in sports and they wanted to determine if left-handed people have an advantage in sports. And they looked at all kinds of statistics in baseball, in football, in soccer, also in boxing, because you can imagine, like, in boxing, you're usually defending yourself against a righty. And this person actually found out that in some sports, being a lefty is certainly an advantage. So it could be something like that too, okay, where it doesn't necessarily have to be like, a community sort of service project, but ideally it'd be something good to help people if you can. Okay, so anyway, so essentially, guys, for the requirements, okay, there's a number of things that I'm going to ask you guys to do. Okay, so the project proposal is worth 10 points. Your sources are worth 10 points. There's going to be 2 updates. I'll give you the opportunity to submit a rough draft to me if you want, not saying that you have to. Okay. And then the research paper itself is going to be worth a significant component. And then the last week of class, instead of a final exam, you guys are going to present your projects. Okay. All right, guys. So that's how you guys are going to earn the points for this. Okay. If you want to work with somebody, like I said, I encourage that. Okay. I would ask that you guys have no more than 3 people in a group, unless there's a compelling reason as to why you would need more than 3 people in a group. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Okay. Last semester, when my class, I had 5 students that worked on the food pantry project because there were literally 400 and some observations. And also, I think there were like maybe, oh boy, I think there were like 13 or 14 research questions. So imagine doing what we just did in Excel, plus other things for 14, 14 different sorts of, 14 data sets basically. Okay. So if there's a compelling reason as to why you might need more than 3 people and you can come up with a project that has that, then it's fine by me. Okay. All right. Research, we'll talk a little bit more about research later in the course, but essentially, guys, the sources have to come from like academic journals, magazines, or credible online library sources. Okay, so for instance, if you get something from MIT, that's a credible source. If you get something from TMZ, probably not a credible source. Okay, so when I say credible, it has to come from like some sort of scholarly locale. All right, this is going to be the overview as to how the project is structured. And you could literally just have like section 1, overview and hypothesis. Section 2, collection methods. Okay, so did you use stratified sampling? Did you use like a survey where simple random sampling was employed? Did you use systematic sampling? That sort of stuff. Okay, and then you're going to describe it. If you had a survey, which you guys will, okay, you're going to cut and paste that. You're going to put it in your paper. Okay, and then you're going to just justify whether you collected random samples. Okay, and remember, guys, that's one of the whole points of statistics is to kind of gauge random samples. Okay, so if you literally got all people that were aged 16 to 20, okay, because that's what most of you guys probably have, like a lot of your friends are around that age, okay, or around your age per se, okay, then that might not necessarily be random. Okay, so you want to make sure you get a random sample as much as possible, etc. All right, you're going to summarize the data. A lot of what we just did is going to be the data summary. Okay, so literally, if you guys go back and watch the first 45 minutes of the video that we create today, that can kind of remind you guys as to how to do the data summary. Okay, so you get like your frequency distribution, your charts, like your histograms, box plots, that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's basically what you would want to do for the data summary. All right. We haven't gotten to the inferential statistics. Okay, that's the stuff that we're going to come up after we get done exam 2. So we're going to do confidence intervals, hypothesis testing, that sort of stuff. All right. So realistically, guys, you can probably, if you wanted to, you could do all 3 of these sections right now. Okay. Not saying that you have to, but you could start doing those. Okay. After your project's approved. The last thing you guys are going to do is you're going to do an analysis. Okay. And that's basically whether your data supports your initial conjecture. So for instance, the folks that did the Artists Association project, they thought that there were a sufficient number of volunteers. Well, come to find out, they don't have enough volunteers to sustain, what the demand is for what, just because it's a volunteer basis, so they're not scheduling people. So initially they thought there was enough volunteers because, there were enough people that came in, but there weren't enough people that came in on specific dates. Okay, so anyway, those are the sorts of things I'm looking for the final analysis. Okay. All right, guys, any questions about this? Okay, there's some other things down here, like how I grade it and all that stuff. All right, there's a little bit about the presentation. We're not worried about that. Okay, we're literally till May. Okay, mid-May. Right now it's February, so we have February, we have March, April, May. We basically have 3 months until this really happens. Okay, so even though it seems like a lot, remember, if you do a little bit of it at a time, that's fine. Okay, like I said, I'll give you an opportunity to submit a rough draft. You don't have to, but what I'll do is I'll basically grade it like it's the actual paper, and I'll let you know what you have to do to get an A on the paper. Okay, that's literally, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for me to tell you, well, this is wrong, this will bring it up to a B. Okay, when realistically the benchmark for honor students is to get an A. All right, so that's what I'll do with the rough draft. Like I said, you don't have to submit one. I remember last semester there was a student that they had some really good data, but their final project or the paper was really poor, and so they ended up getting a C on it because their data and their computations was good, but boy, it was a mess, and I hate to say that. And if they would have submitted a rough draft, I strongly feel that the student would have earned an A by going back and doing the revisions. So anyway, just a strong suggestion that you guys do submit a rough draft. And guys, the ultimate goal of this is to present it somewhere. Okay, you guys know that there's a Scholar Summit coming up, okay, in May. You can win cash for this. There's also the Maryland Collegiate Honors Council annual conference, which is actually tonight, or it's actually today at noon. And I'll post the link in Blackboard if anybody just wants to pop in and see what it's all about. All right, but these are people from around the state that have had their research approved by the Maryland Collegiate Honors Council board, and they're competing for cash prizes as well. All right, so you could do a poster presentation of this. Okay, so there's lots of opportunities to present your research. All right, and think about this, guys. There's not a lot of opportunities for undergraduate students, especially at a community college, to present research. For those of you, and every single one of you should be, think about going to a competitive sort of institution or an honors college or an honors society or something like that, or an honors program at another university. This looks really good for you guys if you're doing something like this presentation. All right, it kind of puts you like in a different category as a student that has, a 3.7 or a 3.8. I know all of you guys are really strong students. All right, but it's not just being a strong student. Sometimes it's actually going and doing a little bit above and beyond what good academics suggests is to get into like these competitive programs. All right, so for instance, Towson University has a very competitive business program. All right, so if you ever wanted to transfer there, they do have a good honors college as well, which I know several of you have applied for. Okay, which is really great. I'm glad that you guys have, because you get money for that too. Okay, so really, guys, take advantage of these opportunities. All right, they can really help you out. Same with and Towson's Honors College, they have something like a Scholar Summit as well. So for those of you guys that are interested in presenting your research, and there's no pressure, guys. I know that all you guys have a lot of things going on, but if it's like one of those things that you want to put a check mark next to, like I did that, please. Okay, my goal is for all of you guys to have a quality research paper by the time you're done with this class. That your aim should be presentation ready. Okay, so. And I do have a number of students that are actually presenting at the Maryland Collegiate Honors Council conference. One of them was in my stat class last semester, Lindsay, she did a fantastic research project on addiction in Harford County, and how there's not a lot of outpatient methadone rehab clinics in Harford County. There's a lot of them around the state, but for some reason Harford County doesn't have them. And it's mostly because Harford County is a conservative county and they don't want to have these in the county because they have to acknowledge that the problem exists. All right, so she's presenting this, and she's doing it at a state level because we're one of 13 or 14 counties in the state. I can't remember how many there are. Sorry. So really, guys, the goal is, like I said, get good, solid research down so that way you guys can present it. Okay, or you can continue it into your graduate studies or even at your undergraduate level. Okay, so that's my goal, is for you guys to be able to carry this over with you. Now, the question is, okay, that's all really nice, Chris. Tell me what I got to do. All right. What you guys have to do by next Friday, complete this form. Okay. So membership of your group. Okay. What you're thinking of doing. Okay. Overall intent of your research project. Were you arguing? Okay. So for instance, you know, do left-handers have a significant advantage in baseball? You know, does Harvard Community College offer enough handicap spaces for people that really need them? Okay, that sort of stuff. Okay, or maybe you could suggest that they don't. Okay, because that's your perception. Okay, so these are just some things that you might be interested in or whatever. Okay, but whatever you're interested in, guys. I mean, you don't want to pick something that you're not interested in, obviously, because then it just becomes a chore. So do something that pertains to your major, or do something that pertains to your community. Okay, do something that's going to help out everybody or yourself. Okay, but just don't do it just to do it. All right? How does the project impact society? There has to be some impact. Okay. Make sure that you guys can collect data. Think about how you're going to collect it. So are you going to make up a survey? Are you going to, and that's fine. If you don't know specifically how you're going to deploy it, that's fine. Surveys are really great. And you guys probably know you have access to Microsoft Forms through Harvard Community College. What Forms does is it actually puts all of your data into an Excel file. I would recommend Forms, okay, if you guys do it. You can certainly do a Google survey too. And Google, I think Google puts it nicely into a survey as well. All right. Minimum number of samples has to be 100, okay? We talked about sample size, right, guys? I mean, remember, like, I bowed down to Ben because he said sample size earlier, that there were only so many observations. All right, sample size is king. Okay, if you don't have enough samples, your research is really not going to be, it's not going to be viewed in the eyes of others as credible. All right, so you have to make sure you get at least 100 samples. Not saying that you can't have 200 or 300. Okay, but 100 observations is going to be your benchmark. All right, and then finally, just talk about summary methods that you're going to use to describe your data. Okay, I would recommend box plot. I would recommend histogram. I'd recommend bar chart if you're doing categorical, and pie chart. You know why? Because we just did them today and you know how to do it. Okay. All right. Any questions about anything with respect to the Capstone project or what's due next Friday? Okay. Just this form. Okay. And it's literally on page number 4. Okay. So remember how to get there. Just go into Blackboard. Just click on the Capstone Project link. Go to Capstone Project. Right, and here's the link to submit it, and then here's the form. Okay, so if you just want to click the form, click on the form, it's right there. Or you guys can just go into the actual capstone paper. Okay, it's there. Okay, so any questions, guys? Okay, all right, guys. Oh, go ahead, Ellen.
How do we figure out if we can have more than, or if more than one person wants to help us with the project?
One more time. Let me make sure I'm understanding your question. How do you submit it, or how do you get more people? I'm sorry, Helen.
Get more people.
Gotcha. Okay. If you want to work with other people, you can email the class. Okay. So right over here's the email link, and you could just email all users. Okay. And you could just ask folks, hey, I'm interested in working on a project with folks. Is anybody interested in collaborating? Okay. Or on Monday, you can just ask folks, right, in class, like, hey, I'd like to work with somebody. Can you meet me outside in the hall for like 2 minutes after we're done? And I'll get your cell phone number if you feel comfortable with that, or email, so that way we can contact each other. So that's another way to do it too. Okay. By the way, if you're working, Kat, should we start collecting data ASAP? Kat, if you could wait until I approve your project next week, okay? Just because if you're going in a direction that might be too difficult for you to collect data, I wouldn't want you guys to do that. Okay, so yeah, just hold off on it. Okay, I think you guys are going to have plenty of time to be able to collect the data. But once I approve it, that's when you guys would want to go ahead and create a survey. All right, and actually next Friday, when we do technology number 2, okay, I'm going to talk about how to create a survey as well. I meant to do this early in the course, but I think we got held up or something one day, and I didn't do it, and it really wasn't like on the top of our list of things. Okay, so really good question. Thanks, Kat. All right, folks, other questions? Okay. Yeah, I did a lot of talking today. Sorry about that. I usually try to get you guys to talk some, but it's just information overload day. All right, so I'm going to stop recording. Maybe, hopefully, possibly, potentially, feasibly.